What's up everyone, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful 24 official channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. Luna awakens Sheila and Lee when the Grace trick causes Bill to go nuclear. Luna Nozawa woke up to Sheila Sharp and Lee Finnegan, and the Bold and the Beautiful reveals that Bill Spencer went nuclear over Grace Buckingham's trick. Sheila's shock at the sight of Luna alive and in Lee's care persisted. After Sheila asked why Lee saved Luna, Lee talked about things changing when she saw her helpless niece and granddaughter on that operating table. Since Lee blamed Papi Nozawa for Luna's rotten upbringing, she now saw the potential for Luna to have a second chance. Luna wasn't kept in the hospital because she would have been sent back to prison, and Lee wanted to help Luna get better. She was concerned about Luna's wake-up time after Lee talked about Luna's chance at redemption. Sheila ultimately took Luna's hand and gave a sweet speech as she coaxed her granddaughter to open her eyes. Luna finally did flutter her eyes open and struggled to focus on the shadowy figures in front of her. Sheila insisted her grandmas were there with her and smiled along with Lee in relief, so Luna smiled back at them. Lee was amazed and appreciative of Sheila's efforts to wake Luna. At Forrester Creations, Will Spencer and Electra Forrester shared some lovey-dovey moments before reflecting on all the Luna and Liam Spencer drama. When Ivy Forrester heard that Liam would be all right, she asked Will for confirmation and received comfort. Ivy later got a little emotional with Electra because she knew how much Liam meant to her. At the Spencer mansion, Liam got a text from John Finnegan and learned Grace had indeed turned herself in at the police station. Liam came to the conclusion that it was past time to inform Bill of Grace's deception as he and Hope Logan continued to process the information. Liam knew his dad was going to go nuclear, but he summoned Bill away from a conversation with Katie Logan anyway. Liam and Hope updated Bill on Grace's deception when he showed up, unsure of what was going on. Bill lashed out at Grace for faking everything and using cancer-like medication to make Liam believe he was ill. Naturally, Bill also learned that Grace conned him out of $1 million to pay off Reese Buckingham's gambling debts and that the surgery was a hoax. Bill insisted that bitch would pay dearly and would wish she never met him. According to the Bold and the Beautiful, Grace will have to face her actions, so don't miss out on what's to come on the CBS soap. Luna sees an unbelievable sight when she wakes up to a raged Bill swearing revenge on Grace Buckingham. Luna is unconscious at Lee's place, and Sheila and Lee are watching. Sheila is in shock that her granddaughter is still alive. Sheila marvels at Lee's ability to save Luna and Finn simultaneously. Lee informs her that there are no assurances. Sheila, speaking on behalf of all of us, inquires as to why she did this considering how she views her. Why did you save her? When Lee realized that she was in control of Luna's life in the hospital, she let out a sigh. She was looking down at her plight as a grandmother. Sheila speculates that she was unable to resist. Lee confirms she was feeling for Luna, feeling maybe she could be forgiven after all. The girl was tainted by her drug-addicted, egotistical sister. She made the decision to do everything in her power to save Luna as she hovered between life and death. She will restore her health. Sheila states the obvious, "You saved my granddaughter's life." Sheila inquires as to why Lee did not save Luna at the hospital, where she has a team of medical professionals. Lee says if she did that, she'd go to prison for the rest of her life. Knowing that was her fate, she almost let her go. She, on the other hand, snuck her away in the hopes of offering her a genuine chance at redemption now that it is a waiting game. The longer she stays unconscious, Lee trails off. She simply requires her to awaken before it is too late. Everyone glad Luna's gone for good. At Forrester, Will and Electra make out in the main office. He tells her how beautiful she is, and the conversation quickly shifts to how Luna is gone because of his brother. They agree that the doctors who saved him are heroes. Bill tells Katie across the hall that he will always be grateful to Grace Buckingham. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, when Will and Electra are discussing Luna, Ivy asks if Liam will actually survive. Will exclaims, "Yes." Ivy and Electra meet after Will departs to discuss how difficult it would have been for the jewelry designer to say goodbye to Liam. Electra feels the relief too, knowing Luna is out of their lives forever. What will Bill do to Grace? Hope and Liam rant and pace as they recall how Grace conned Bill out of $1 million at Bill's house. Liam roars, "Because I didn't have brain cancer." They name-call the Buckinghams and inquire as to why Grace did not simply call the police. When Liam picks up his phone, Finn tells him that the doctor turned herself in. When Hope talks about what Grace put Liam through, he realizes that he needs to call someone else. Hope believes that when Bill finds out, he will want to kill the doctor. With a nod to Yep, Liam summons his father to return home. Liam informs Hope that his father will go nuclear after disconnecting. Talk turns to Luna being unable to hurt anyone ever again. Bill arrives and inquires about the situation. Liam hedges, "We have a story to tell you, and you're going to have a hard time believing it." His son alludes to Finn's questions and suspicions before revealing that he was right. It wasn't true. Misunderstanding, Bill thinks Liam means he still has a tumor. Liam explains that he never did. Hope claims that he wired $1 million to pay off Grace's gambling debts from her ex-husband, whose brain tumor she blamed for his stroke. It was a scam. As they describe the threats made against Grace as a result of Reese's gambling debts, Bill reels and becomes increasingly agitated. Bill says that the girl will have to pay a lot of money. Grace Buckingham will regret not having known me sooner. What will Luna wake up to? At Lee's place, she swears Sheila to secrecy. Sheila asks Luna for a moment with her by nodding. She tells her she is strong and has blood coursing through her veins when she is by herself. She begs for her to get up. Predictably, Luna squeezes her hand. Luna quickly opens her eyes and smiles when she sees Sheila and Lee together and beams down at her after Sheila calls Lee. Overjoyed, Lee and Sheila exclaim that her grandmothers are there for her. Luna Nozawa's awakening was not simply the act of opening her eyes. It marked the beginning of a tumultuous upheaval that would affect every family and alliance on the Bold and the Beautiful. When she regained consciousness in Lee Finnegan's secure, dimly lit residence, she not only noticed her two grandmothers, Sheila Sharp and Lee, hovering over her, but also began to perceive that the world outside that tranquil room was already being torn apart by Bill Spencer's wrath over Grace Buckingham's devastating deception. This scheme was so malicious that even within the morally ambiguous realm of Los Angeles's elite, it was recognized as a betrayal of nuclear proportions. Sheila's initial astonishment at discovering her granddaughter alive and under Lee's care lingered in her gaze as she posed the one question that everyone watching at home was silently asking. Why had Lee chosen to save Luna at all, considering her profound disdain for both Luna's upbringing and the Nozawa branch of the family tree? After a moment of stoic silence, Lee confessed that everything changed for her when she saw Luna lying on that operating table, vulnerable and teetering between life and death. The sight of her youth and fragility dissolved all the grudges Lee had been harboring, allowing her to envision the possibility of redemption where previously there had only been disdain. Indeed, Lee still held Papi Nozawa accountable for the turmoil and moral decay in Luna's life, yet she could not dismiss the potential for this young woman to start anew. In that fleeting moment of decision, she resolved to keep Luna out of the hospital, fully aware that her presence there would have resulted in a swift transfer to prison. Instead, Lee took it upon herself to secretly monitor Luna's delicate condition, providing her the space and time to recuperate away from the scrutiny of the law. However, she privately confided to Sheila that the longer Luna remained unconscious, the greater the risk of losing her entirely. Thus, moved by an unusual surge of tenderness, Sheila reached out to grasp Luna's limp hand, softly speaking about strength, family, and second chances, urging her to open her eyes, her voice quivering yet firm enough to express hope, and finally, in a moment that would later seem almost otherworldly, Luna's eyelids fluttered, her gaze struggling to focus until the indistinct figures of Sheila and Lee became clear, both of them smiling down at her, two women who had spent years entrenched in mutual animosity now united, albeit briefly, in relief. Meanwhile, at Forrester Creations, the atmosphere was deceptively lighter as Will Spencer and Electra Forrester reveled in some unabashedly romantic moments, their whispered compliments and lingering kisses highlighted by their shared relief that Liam Spencer had survived the recent upheaval. Although the conversation inevitably returned to Luna and the complicated aftermath her drama had created, prompting Ivy Forrester, already somewhat fragile from recent events, to inquire with Will about Liam's condition, visibly softening upon receiving confirmation that he would indeed be all right, even if the emotional scars would remain. However, at the expansive Spencer estate, the emotional climate was rapidly intensifying as Liam, seated next to Hope Logan, read a text from Finn confirming that Grace Buckingham had surrendered at the police station, a development that only solidified Liam's belief that his father needed to be informed of every sordid detail of Grace's actions, despite being fully aware that Bill Spencer's reaction would be nothing short of explosive. Liam could almost sense the fuse igniting as he called Bill away from a discussion with Katie Logan, setting the stage for a confrontation that would be the talk of the town for months, and when Bill arrived, sharp-eyed and impatient, both Liam and Hope presented the truth piece by piece, That Grace had fabricated Liam's supposed illness, administering cancer-like medication to simulate symptoms, manipulating not only his body but also his mind into believing he was dying, all while extracting a staggering $1 million from Bill under the guise of care. The so-called surgery was nothing more than an elaborate deception. Bill's expression grew darker with each new revelation until his anger reached a peak, his voice sharp as a knife as he swore that Grace would suffer greatly, that she would come to regret the day she encountered him, a vow that sent a shiver through both Liam and Hope despite their mutual indignation. Thus, while Grace found herself in a police station, confronting the reality of her disintegrating plans, Luna's gradually awakening awareness drew her into a world already trembling from the repercussions of her absence, a world where the delicate truce between Sheila and Lee could collapse at any moment, where Will and Electra quietly reveled in the hope that Luna might be permanently out of their lives, and where Bill Spencer, driven by feelings of betrayal, humiliation, and the instinct to safeguard his own, readied himself to exact a form of vengeance that, in his hands, would not merely be punishment but complete destruction. However, within the small, tense refuge of Lee's home, all that turmoil was briefly overshadowed by the simple miracle of Luna's eyes opening, her faint smile reflecting back at the two women who hovered over her, and for that fleeting moment in time, neither Sheila's criminal history nor Lee's strict moral judgments held significance. What truly mattered was that Luna was alive, breathing, and perhaps on the verge of crafting a very different narrative in a life that had already endured more twists than most could withstand.